another disclaimer. I am very appreciative of the opportunity. Truly, truly am. I'm not taking away from this. It was a beautiful gathering of people. It was a gorgeous space, huge turnout. And when I walked in to my show in Paris, I felt nothing. I felt nothing. No thing did I feel. What the fuck? Like, nothing matters unless you love it. Nothing matters at all unless you love it. Unless it makes goosebumps rise up in your whole body. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Help Me See. Settle in. Settle in. Woo. If you are around your children, press pause. I just feel like there's going to be more cursing than usual, so revisit it another time. So I've started baking bread, and while some of you won't see this as any cause for concern, I see this as a major fucking cause for concern. I don't, am I going through a third life crisis? Not a third, like a third time, but like a third. This is enough to send me into another spiral because I feel like I'm too old to say quarter life crisis, but too young to say midlife crisis. So is this a third life crisis? Gives me that same panic feeling as when I'm filling something out for anything and it's asking me my age, and now I'm in another bracket. Like I'm in the another grouping that's further along. It really freaks me out. Yeah, so I started making bread, and it's pretty good. And it's still not the way I want it, but we'll get there. My life's about to have a major shift. I accepted a part-time job somewhere. I don't know when that will start. Probably in the next few weeks. And I have a feeling that it's going to be a good change. Ever since my kids started going to school, so my older one went back, but my youngest has never been before. So I went from having like no time at all to having apparently too much time, because in the past, 20 minutes of alone time would feel like 3 hours. It was just heaven and like, oh my gosh. And now I have 5 hours and still shit doesn't get done. And I don't understand. Like what is happening? What is happening? I haven't even been able to create in my normal flow since getting back from my trip to Europe that I took a couple weeks ago. And I mean, of course, it's been a combination of this time of the year, the holiday, my kids being home more. Now my partner went on a trip and there's a total snowstorm. So I shoveled my first driveway of my life. And insanity. I'm like shoveling the driveway. It's so heavy. I've never done this before. I grew up in Florida. I have my older one screaming, crying at me that he's hungry, even though I've been cooking for him all day. My younger one is running around in the snow. I'm trying to stop him from running into the street. I'm sorry. I can't. I just have to say it. I just have to get it out of me so I can exhale. But I know I travel a lot and I know my partner is home a lot with the boys one-on-one, but it is not the same. The mayhem that ensues, like emotionally, physically, logistically, when it's just me and the boys, it doesn't compare. It just doesn't. It's different. And if you're a mom, I know you get it. I know you. And if you don't, if you're saying, no, that's not the case for me, please, I want to hear. I want to hear about your life and how you've maneuvered it in this way, or how your magic, whatever it is. Anyway, so my kids are back in school after being home for longer than they should have been for the holiday because we had a massive snowstorm, and we're still getting snow. I moved my desk into my bedroom because my view is so beautiful. It's like a white blanket of snow, and I'd rather look at my backyard that I don't have to shovel than my driveway that I feel like I always have to shovel now. I've actually always wanted to put a desk in here. I want a writer's desk in here because I live in front of a pond and I really love looking at the water. It's something that's non-negotiable for me, really important. Wherever I live, I want to see water of some kind. And my office is in the front of the house, so I don't usually get that. So I'm going to fix that. Today has been a good test run for that. Okay, I'm ready kind of to talk about my trip to Europe. So just to orient you into the type of listening experience you're about to enter, I don't know how inspirational or aspirational this is about to be. This is just deeply honest, as always, but I don't feel like I actually really need to preface and justify myself in my own podcast space. I feel like if you're here, you're a soul person of mine, and it is what it is. But I guess just to put it out there ahead of the conversation I'm about to have with you, I am very deeply and eternally grateful that I got to go on this trip. I went on this trip with my mother, who has never been out of the country. I did a lot of things. I was very brave. I got lost in the hills of cliffs of the Tuscan landscape with my Google Maps not updating. Still got us home safely. I'm proud of myself. I don't say that often, and I should say that more. But yes, I'm proud of myself. You should say that. Can you press pause? Take a deep breath right now. For real. You say, I'm proud of myself. Because there's a gajillion fucking things that you should be proud of yourself for. And even if you're not overtly hard on yourself or whatever, I think it's very easy to forget to give yourself a pat on the back or a hug. Literally a hug, like cross your arms. Do that in yoga and it feels overly emotional. I'm like, oh, I'm hugging myself. Let yourself be proud of yourself. My big takeaway from my trip to Europe, if I could sum it up in one sentence, one eloquent sentence. Usually I'm not concise, but I feel like I can do it. I can sum it up in one sentence. That sentence would be, what the fuck are we even doing? What the fuck am I even doing? What the fuck are you even doing? I leave the word even in there for dramatic effect. No, what are you doing? No, what are you even doing right now? Let me explain. I am someone who has a really hard time setting goals. Anytime I think to set a goal or I try to set a goal, it feels fake. It feels like I know I don't actually really care about this, but it also feels very obtuse, very vague to not. And I think that I've had this blanket desire that I don't take too seriously, but has always been like in the background of my mind of like, I would like to be a gallery represented artist. I love art shows. I love the idea of having like a home, like for my art and my vision, and like being able to, have shows or have people find me and commission me through a gallery. I really like that's something that has always felt like, oh, that would be the goal. If I had to pick a goal, that's the goal, right? Ish. See, I even have trouble saying that sentence. I'm like a commitment-phobe when it comes to goals. Goals that aren't states of being. But as a very wise woman, aka one of my coaches, Haley Carr, said, making a goal a state isn't really a thing because you can choose to be a state now. Isn't that so smart and wise? Something that I went into a container with her with is like, I just want to feel at peace. I just want to feel peace. I don't know why I don't know what that is. I don't know what it's not. Well, actually, I do know what it's not. But I want to feel peace. No matter what you are doing to try to get to peace, you're never going to have it unless you decide, choose, allow, receive in a million different ways. I'm going to pause here. I'm feeling really called to do a lot more pauses and to like ask you questions because that's something that I need really deeply. I really need that because I have a toxic trait of letting something slip off me and thinking about how I could help others with it. Like, oh, this would be a great thing to insert into my nostalgia now templates in this way. But I was like, whoa, bitch. Like, like what? You integrate, put it in your mouth, chew it, swallow it. Digest that. So if you're anything like me, this shall be helpful. Is there a goal or something that you've been putting in the distance that is actually a state of being that you could choose in this moment, regardless of circumstance? You could choose and you could open and you can be in right now. Please pause. Like if you're thinking and whatever, don't just let me keep going and then let yourself off the hook and then be like, oh, I'll go back to that later, because you won't, just like I don't. So pause me. Anywho. So a curator reached out to me, asked me, would you be interested in exhibiting this image that she found on Instagram in a show in Paris on this date? I didn't answer for a couple days because I was sure that it was a scam. I don't know. It's like, I don't know what this person's after. They haven't asked me for anything. but there's something fishy here. No, it was not a scam. Spoiler alert. And I thought it was really beautiful that it was a picture, one of my pictures of my mother. And there was no other way to have this trip other than to bring her with me. Like, I just knew I wanted her to come. And I thought it was beautiful that my art was going to be the thing to bring us there. You know, there's no other reason why we could have gone on our own, but it wasn't going to happen. We just weren't going to do it. There was no specificity there. Oh, this is actually helping me realize this is why I need a goal. Okay. There was nothing that was going to make that happen, right? It's not like we were going to come into an abundance of money that all of a sudden we were going to be like, and we will use these funds to go to Paris. Like, this whole trip was put on a credit card, most of which my dear mother's. But there's a reason, a really important reason. And we're dumb humans, and we think that an external recognition gives us a reason. It's actually quite frustrating and embarrassing that, like, reason enough isn't that it's my mom's lifelong dream to go to this place, you know? And I had to, waited until someone decided, I want to put you in a show. Also, another disclaimer. I am very appreciative of the opportunity. Truly, truly am. I'm not taking away from this. It was a beautiful gathering of people. It was a gorgeous space, huge turnout. I met a few people there, like participating artists that are super, super cool. And when I walked in to my show in Paris, I felt nothing. I felt nothing. No thing did I feel. And I wasn't putting it on a pedestal, right? Like, I already knew before I got there that I wasn't like, this is the thing. This is what I've been waiting for. But it's also undeniably a strand, like a sliver of the assumed goal of gallery representation and what that would mean and what that would look like. You know, shows in different parts of the world and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, last year I was in a show in Rotterdam that I didn't even consider going to. Like, it didn't even cross my mind to attend that show. And it pissed me off when I realized I didn't even consider going for a second. It's fine that I didn't go, but also, like, I got so pissed and felt like rebellious over the fact that I didn't even think to go, that when this Paris thing happened, I'm like, not only must I go, dragging my mom with me, 2 birds with 1 stone. Gotta love a multitask. Gotta love it. There was Photo Paris going on that same night, that same weekend. And I went there. I met some friends that I had never met in person before, and then some that I actually went to a workshop with, an Alex Soth workshop, and he was there too. I got to see him. It was a beautiful experience, and the work there was mind-blowing, like, beautiful. And then the next morning, I went to the Louvre, and it was just nauseating, like a gross amount of inspiring, gorgeous work. And I just left that thinking, what the fuck? Like, nothing matters unless you love it. Nothing matters at all unless you love it. Unless it makes goosebumps rise up in your whole body. Okay, really funny story. I forced my mom to sit in a wheelchair because the Louvre was the first stop of the day, and she has hip trouble, and she also has COPD, so she has lung problems. She gets out of breath when she's walking a lot. And I'm like, listen, we need to cover some ground. This is a big place. Like, I don't want you to feel like crap for the rest of the day. Like, we're not on cobblestone here. We're on glidey floors. Like, everything's accessible. Let's just do it. And she's like, no. And like, we're walking away from the wheelchair place to go in. And I'm like, no, actually, no, fuck that. Like, we're doing it. I'm sorry. You have no choice. So I'm so glad we did. She's so glad we did too, even though she was saying it was elder abuse because I was pushing so fast. Her hair was blowing in the wind. I'm sorry. I also have a little bit of a cough. So I was laughing with like a smoker's laugh. I was really ambitiously trying to get through a lot of that museum. That was another thing too. Like, if I would have, oh my gosh, I would have done it so differently. I wanted to make sure that she saw certain things, and if I were just going alone, I would have scheduled nothing, absolutely nothing. I need time to linger. I need time to meander. I need time. I want to spend forever looking at one thing if I want, or sitting, staring out the window at a cafe. Like, we had too many things scheduled. Okay. Anyway, the point of this aside is we got to the room with the Mona Lisa. I went into it with a chip on my shoulder over the Mona Lisa to begin with, because it's like, oh my gosh, this is just a representation of why I love fine art world so much and hate it so much at the same time. There's a million people in front of this very modestly sized painting. I have just come from rooms of paintings bigger than I ever realized it was possible for a painting to be. Insane artwork. Impossible to take in all of this artwork. And I wanted to get closer just because of the infamy of this, but also was so annoyed at it. I'm like, this is ridiculous that nothing else has this kind of attention on it. And, I don't know, like, part of me feels a little nervous and ignorant to say it so boldly, but it's just so fucking stupid. There's nothing that is worth more or less than something else, right? Like, it just depends on your own taste. And like, I'm just wondering, like, does every one of these people that's trying to see this painting have an adoration for it from this like intimate, personal place? I don't know. Anyway, whatever. So I'm disgusted, right? But so I'm wheeling my mom in the wheelchair off like to the side just to get past it, to like move on. I'm like, fuck this. There's glass case around the painting, and then there's like a wooden banister or like railing in front of it, and then like 8 feet in front of that is the rope where the crowd has to stand away from it. So it's a pretty good distance away. Can't get a close look. And as we're trying to go around to go behind the wall partition to the other space, these museum workers that are manning this area just, here you go, like cut us off and direct us right into the space in front of the Mona Lisa. Because she was in a wheelchair. Like, so it was just us And then this other gentleman, and that was like an amputee, and his wife that he was in the wheelchair, and just us, like right up against the railing, and they like took a picture of us with it because my mom was in a wheelchair. I'm like, why aside, why aren't more people doing this if they want to see the Mona Lisa so bad? like, what? I wanted to piss my pants. I'm like, this is the funniest shit ever. Like, I was so disgusted and wanting to move on, and I'm ushered in front, closer than anyone. The first picture I took when I got there was of the crowd on the opposite of the Mona Lisa. It wasn't of the picture. Of course, it's a beautiful painting. It's gorgeous, of course. And so is everything else. And I'm just, anyway, so we were cracking up. And you think about it, and it's like, okay, the Louvre is one of the most insane, amazing museums in the world. In the world. And I'm thinking about the people whose art is hanging here. Like, that would be like a dream or a goal of someone, possibly, to be in the Louvre. And then, so for what? So that people can take a selfie, like, in front of your work. Like, most of the I don't know. And the exquisite talent and work and skill and devotion and intention and vision of these artists is so awe-inspiring and motivating. And it doesn't matter unless what they made filled their heart and soul. It doesn't matter. Like, the only value to be had is feeling. When you really think about life and what we're doing and what we're hoping for and what the point is, it's feeling. To feel. So whether that is watching a leaf fall on the ground, or a painting at the Louvre, or watching someone help someone cross the street, whatever it is that makes you feel is the point, right? So if this artist created this amazing work of art, it means everything if the person looking at it feels and is touched by it. But also it means nothing if the artist that did it didn't care about the subject matter or the process, or was totally not invested. And it's funny because it doesn't, I don't know, some people say, oh, you can see it or it translates in the art. I don't really, maybe sometimes. I mean, I feel like they're independent experiences, right? Like, it's not a clear, I don't know, I just think about how sometimes I'll love someone's work, and then maybe I hear them speak or I whatever, and I feel like what I feel is not good. I don't really particularly like them or whatever. All of a sudden, like, that aura, that magic that I felt looking at this work is gone, and I couldn't give a rat's ass. And the opposite is also true. Like, someone's work who I was like, oh, yeah, cool. Like, cool. But just like, cool. And then all of a sudden I'll hear them talk and I'm like, oh my God. Obsessed. This is the experience that I had with Larry Sultan, my favorite photographer of all time. I discovered Larry Sultan and I looked at his work and I'm like, whoa, those are beautiful. And then I heard him speak and I vibrating. My body was like vibrating with resonance of like, oh my God. What a gift to humanity this human being is. There's a modern photographer, like current day, my favorite actually current day photographer that I love. Like, I love this person's work very, very much. I mean, when I think of my favorite photographer that is alive right now practicing, I think of this person, and I own none of his books. And which is crazy because I'm a fanatic when it comes to purchasing art and art books. But I just can't help it. There's a disconnect between his work when I see it, like on one by one, its own thing, and the way he makes books. I just feel nothing when I look at the books, which is crazy because I love the art. But it's like I'm not going to, spend, the limited resources I have on this thing unless I have a full body, like, oh, this. And I think it's so interesting, right? I actually had a moment, I came up against it again with this trip. Like, there was a showing of his, and I'm like, and he was there, and I'm like, oh, well, if I get the book, then I can have him sign it, and I really love his work. But I was like, I can't fake that. I don't want, like, I don't know. It was weird. Do you relate to this? Like, is there someone that, like, everything checks out, but for some reason there's a disconnect in this area? That's kind of what this was for me. So I didn't actually end up getting his book, and I didn't meet him or have it signed because I just felt like, let me just love it for how I love it and experience it how I experience it. And I don't know, maybe one day I'll be able to buy a print or something, and that will be my version experience, my choice in how I experience that work, and it's just not book form. Anyway, point is, get to the point. The whole thing is the point. The point is this everything and nothingness. This, what are we even doing? What are we even doing? One of my favorite things about going on this trip was actually going to the Shakespeare and Company bookstore. I love bookstores so much. And I went into this bookstore. It's tiny and it's so charming, and you have to wait in a line because they only let a few people in at a time so it doesn't get overly crowded. And just the energy in there and the experience of that bookstore was probably more potent than when I went to the Palace of Versailles, honestly. When I was at the Palace of Versailles, I kept thinking I was disturbed by the opulence. It went from awe of like, oh my gosh, so beautiful, to like almost disgust. Like, what is this? Like, who died making this? But I that reckoning, like coming to grips with like, this actually doesn't matter, and this actually really does, is such an important, it's the point of life to a degree, right? It's like one of the points of life, figuring out what is it that is important and removing all of the veils, all of the facades, all of those invisible lenses that have been put on you from growing up in a society, whichever one it is, and it's very liberating. It's very freeing, but it's also very daunting. It's like, okay, but then now what? Like, I left there and I'm like, okay, I've now decided that I don't want to offer photo services openly anymore. I want to do more slow commissions for people. I don't want to just offer sessions. Okay. And then I go there and I have this like gallery experience. I'm like, whatever. What? What now? What now? And my what now has always been the same, and I act like I'm rediscovering it. but it's always the same thing. It's presence. It's being so in right now that there's no where else. And I think so much of life and where human beings get caught up is being everywhere but here all of the time. And sometimes it takes this very inconvenient, crazy, epic, deflating, confusing journey to bring you back home. Oh, okay. I had this moment, I won't share because it's a private family moment, but basically there was someone said something to me of how they're worried about me. Of everything, I worry about you. And there was this moment in me, and, of course, from like a ego perspective, like there's like a flinch, right? But it was really easy to get past that part. There was like this very deep gasp, whirlwind, like of wow. Do you even see me at all? And this confidence of like, yeah, I might go through tough times, or I might this, or I might that, but I have such trust in myself and my convictions and the way I choose to live my life that I am so much more okay than I even realized, just by someone genuinely being concerned and doubting that. I let that moment be such a empowering moment for me of, oh, I understand how it might look like this from the outside, but from the inside, fucking golden. I'm okay. I know what I'm doing because I'm living my life from this central core spot. And even though it can feel messy and confusing and haphazard on the outside, like all that matters is how it feels, right? Feeling. How does it feel? You could have everything buttoned up in the world and from the exterior look like all your shit is in a row and you're good, and want to scream at the top of your lungs and just disappear, right? I feel like I have so much more to say, but I'm going to put a pin in it there. I want to ask you, what in your life, quote unquote, looks good, but doesn't feel good? You know what I mean by that. Like, by standards, whose ever standards, societal, yours, whatever, looks good from the outside, but doesn't feel good. What is that? And what might look fucking crazy, like a shit show, hard, whatever, but feels right. Feels perfect. Let yourself linger in that knowing. I'm so proud of you, and I hope you are so proud of you. I didn't need to go to Paris to be proud of me. But sometimes it is really helpful to go halfway around the world to realize what doesn't matter and what does. Sometimes you just need to be that far away from your bullshit to get your eyes adjusted. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. That is what I have for you today. I'm also about to post. If you are not subscribed to my Substack, I highly recommend it because I take portions of the transcript from the podcast, turn it into a piece of writing, and add some of my pictures that I've taken throughout just time in general. It's actually really helpful for me because it helps me to get into my archive more than I would. I'm a gatherer. I take pictures, I put them all on my cheeks, and then I don't chew any of them for a really long time. And this process has really helped me to be in my art more, in my photographic art more. So if you want a visual experience and don't want to hear my ums and ahs and coffee drinking, swallowing in the mic, then subscribe to my Substack. I also have a paid version of my Substack that is Nostalgia Now. So it's my monthly photographic journaling templates. And this month is a really yummy one. It's even more expansive, and I thought outside the box even more on this one. So if you're wanting to have a one-of-a-kind prompted photographic journaling template to help you drop into your life and yourself and your center once a month at the end of the month, then sign up for the paid version of my Substack where you will get access to that. I'm about to post that now as well. The Nostalgia Now is a deeply, I get really nervous to say like the word therapeutic because I'm obviously not a therapist, not a doctor, never providing any advice around anything like that. But as far as a self-inquiry perspective, it really helps you burrow into the layers of your truth and your life and your subconscious and your conscious and your, it's just the most empowering, transformative, mobilizing ritual I have are these monthly reflections where I look back on the month I've had. And I love sharing it with you all. So if that's of interest to you, go ahead and sign up on Substack. I'll put the link in the show notes. Always would love to see your template. So if you complete yours and want to share it and feel like expressing your discoveries, you can find me on Instagram at Bianca Leah Mora and send me a message and a voice memo about your experience. I would love to hear. Okay, that's it. It is getting dark really early these days, and I think I want to go head out and pick up the kiddos before it starts snowing again. And yeah. Okay, I love you so much, and I'll catch you next week.
This has been an Awkward Sage production.